Look at the landscape of Egypt, a narrow strip of fertile green riverbank trapped inside an endless, deadly expanse of dry rock. The ancient Egyptians viewed their entire universe through this stark contrast between safety and chaos. Into this worldview comes the god Osiris. According to the myth, he was the original benevolent king of Egypt, the ruler who stepped out of the mythological mist to teach humanity how to plant crops, bake bread, and live peacefully under a system of laws. Beside him stood Queen Isis. As seen here in this classical stone carving, identified by the standing goddess wearing the sun disk and cow horns, she brought an extraordinary intellect to the throne. She was his closest political advisor and a master of powerful magic. Together, Osiris managing the earthly realm and Isis providing magical counsel, their reign represented absolute harmony.
They were the ultimate shield, protecting the prosperity of civilization from the violent disorder lurking just outside their borders. But that disorder had a face. Osiris had a brother named Seth, and Seth ruled over everything wild. He was the god of sudden violence, blinding desert storms, and pure, unpredictable chaos. Watching Egypt prosper under his brother, Seth wanted the throne entirely for himself. To take it, Seth engineered a highly precise assassination. Working in secret, he acquired Osiris's exact physical measurements and commissioned an ornate, exquisitely crafted wooden chest built to match those dimensions perfectly. Seth then hosted a massive royal feast, unveiling the beautiful chest before the gathered gods and nobility. He offered it as a prize to anyone who could fit perfectly inside. Guest after guest climbed in, but it only matched one person. Osiris laid inside his own coffin. The moment he did, Seth's accomplices lunged. They forcefully slammed the heavy lid shut, sealed it tight, and cast the chest into the Nile River. With the king drowned, the metaphysical barrier against the desert broke. The pillar of societal order had been removed, leaving the earthly throne completely exposed for Seth to seize. Isis refused to accept the reign of Seth. She scoured the known world for her husband, eventually tracking the wooden chest to the distant coast of Byblos. A massive tree had grown completely around the box, and a local king had cut the tree down to use as a structural pillar in his palace. Isis tore the pillar open and retrieved the body. Returning to Egypt, she hoped to prepare a proper royal burial. But Seth's spies discovered her success. The idea of an intact Osiris, even a dead one, terrified him. He stole the corpse back and escalated his violence. He hacked his brother's body into dozens of pieces and scattered the shattered fragments across the vast, arid landscape of Egypt. He did this to attack the mechanism of Egyptian magic itself. He knew that spiritual restoration relied entirely on the physical preservation of the body. By severing the limbs and destroying the form, Seth ensured his brother could never be magically revived. To a civilization obsessed with physical wholeness and careful preservation, this was an existential nightmare. Tearing their greatest king apart was the ultimate, literal fragmentation of their foundational beliefs. Isis immediately began a second, even more grueling journey. Joined by her sister Nephthys, she combed through vast deserts and waded through thick marshlands, meticulously recovering almost every scattered piece of flesh and bone. Here we see an ancient tomb painting showing exactly how they handled the remains. The jackal-headed god Anubis stands over the wrapped body on a lion-shaped bed. By performing these physical binding rites, Anubis established the foundational Egyptian tradition of mummification. With the physical body reassembled, Isis invoked her deepest magic. Bending the laws of nature, she successfully breathed life back into the stitched remains of her husband. But Osiris could not truly return. The magic restored his consciousness, but he could no longer walk in the sunlight or rule over the earthly realm of the living. Instead, he descended to the underworld. Because of this event, the Egyptians stopped viewing death as a state of utter destruction. It became a structured, manageable transition to a new phase of existence, with Osiris waiting to govern them as the Lord of the Dead. Before Osiris departed to the underworld, Isis used her magic to conceive a child. She hid her newborn son, Horus, deep in the thick marshlands of the Nile Delta, raising him in secret to protect the royal bloodline from Seth's paranoia. Horus grew into a fierce warrior. Depicted in ancient art as a massive, dominant falcon, he eventually emerged from the safety of the marshes and challenged his uncle Seth to reclaim his father's stolen kingdom. The two gods locked into a grueling, catastrophic war that dragged on for years. They fought with heavy weapons, shape-shifting magic, and brutal physical combat. During one violent clash, Seth managed to severely injure Horus's eye. The god Thoth eventually healed the injury, and the restored Eye of Horus became legendary. As seen in this turquoise faience amulet, the eye became one of Egypt's most vital cultural talismans, worn by ordinary people to attract healing and ward off danger. The war elevated a royal power struggle into a cosmic necessity. It functioned as the eternal, necessary friction that defines the universe, the endless clash between the forces of order and the inevitable pull of chaos. Unable to destroy one another, the exhausted fighters appealed to the divine court. The gods debated the case, consulted the great sun god Ra, and ultimately issued their judgment. Horus was recognized as the rightful heir, and the earthly throne was returned to him. This legal victory created the template for all human rulers in Egypt. Every living pharaoh sat on the throne as the embodiment of Horus. When that king died, he descended to the underworld to become Osiris, passing the earthly crown to the next living Horus in an endless, unbreakable loop. Osiris became ultimate judge of the afterlife, mapped out in this papyrus scroll. The deceased's heart is placed on a mechanical scale and weighed against the feather of truth. A pure heart grants salvation. A corrupt heart is devoured by the creature beneath the balance. This narrative cycle functioned as the comprehensive philosophical blueprint for Egypt. It ensured devotion outlasts the grave, that justice conquers violence, and life always renews itself through the power of memory and legacy.